Have you ever looked at a Hollywood action hero and thought, that's impressive, but how would they handle a real firefight? Surprisingly, some of Hollywood's toughest legends weren't just acting brave on screen. They were battle-tested in ways most of us could never imagine. They faced down enemy fire, parachuted behind enemy lines, escaped brutal POW camps, or overcame real-life demons that eclipsed any movie script. It's easy to assume Tinseltown is all glitz and camera magic, but the truth can be far more intense. Today you'll discover shocking stories of actors who didn't just play heroes, they were heroes. Hollywood might be full of brave characters on screen, but behind the scenes, most studios historically did everything to shield their bankable talent from real harm. War is messy, unpredictable, and, let's be honest, bad for a star's marketability. Yet a handful of actors brushed aside studio warnings. They traded makeup chairs for muddy trenches, glamorous sets for battlefield chaos. James "Jimmy" Stewart is often remembered for warm, wholesome roles, like the earnest everyman in It's a Wonderful Life. Behind that gentle voice and friendly demeanor lay a hardened combat veteran who served with unwavering dedication. In 1941, Stewart was already a massive star, beloved by audiences. The US military, however, was initially hesitant about sending him into direct combat. He was too famous, and the thought of losing such a high-profile figure was terrifying to top brass. Yet Stewart insisted. He joined the Air Corps and soon found himself in the pilot's seat, leading bombing raids over Nazi Germany. There are rumors the studio tried to set up plush publicity tours to keep him stateside, but Stewart allegedly refused. Discreet whispers suggest he even threatened to walk away from Hollywood if he didn't see real action. Overcoming every obstacle, he went on to fly hazardous missions, rising to the rank of Brigadier General in the U.S. Air Force Reserves. It's hard to reconcile that boyish face from the silver screen with the steely courage of an officer who navigated enemy flak and fighter intercepts. Despite the heavy toll of war, friends lost, near misses, life-changing decisions, Stewart carried himself quietly, rarely boasting about his experiences. Another name that often startles people is Sterling Hayden. Towering at 6'5", he cut an imposing figure. But behind that tall, striking frame was a restless spirit who once declared, "I'm no actor, I'm a sailor." True to his word, Hayden walked away from Hollywood at the peak of his early career to enlist in the Marines. Like Stewart, the brass tried to keep him out of harm's way. After all, who'd want to lose a star Paramount was grooming to be the next big thing? Hayden broke an ankle during Army training, which might have ended his war hopes. Undeterred, he switched branches under a fake name, an actual attempt to avoid star treatment, and ended up working undercover for the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, predecessor to the CIA. He performed clandestine operations in the Balkans, smuggling supplies to resistance fighters and rescuing downed Allied airmen. Years later, fans were left in awe when they learned of Hayden's fearless missions behind enemy lines. Some rumors claim he destroyed entire Axis armament caches with minimal backup. Others say he single-handedly orchestrated evacuations that saved dozens of lives. Truth or legend? Maybe a bit of both, but the official records confirm he earned the Silver Star for gallantry. By the time he returned to Hollywood, Hayden despised the idea of acting for money, and yet he still took roles to fund his sailing passion, making him an unapologetic renegade in a world built on pretense. But that's just a start. There are more stories, some darker, some even more extraordinary, waiting to be revealed. Sometimes it wasn't just about raw courage under gunfire, it was about outsmarting the enemy. Hollywood often glamorizes espionage with suave James Bond-type characters. In reality, a few real-life actors quietly spied for their countries or used their language skills in top-secret missions. Christopher Lee, the iconic Dracula, the formidable Saruman, and the cunning Count Dooku. Did you know that he was once an intelligence officer who brushed shoulders with organizations so secret he refused to speak about them in detail? Lee served during World War II, initially enlisting in the Royal Air Force. When medical issues grounded his ambitions as a pilot, he shifted into intelligence work, which eventually placed him in North Africa with the legendary SAS, Special Air Service. Officially, certain details about his missions are still classified. Yet rumors persist. He fought behind enemy lines, joined the hunt for Nazi war criminals after 1945, and even participated in the sabotage of high-value Axis assets. One well-known tidbit is his alleged involvement in the events leading up to the assassination of Reinhard Heydrich, though Lee remained cryptic on the specifics. Fans often wonder, did he exaggerate his war stories for effect? But those who worked alongside him claimed he was the real deal, a man who calmly faced horrors that could break lesser souls. If you watch his performances closely, especially the menacing calm in his villain roles, you might just be glimpsing the genuine edge of a man who knew violence more intimately than any script could convey. William Smith doesn't always get mainstream recognition, but many insiders call him one of the toughest men in entertainment history. Sure, he had the physique of a champion, a two-time arm wrestling world victor, unstoppable on a motocross bike, and rumored to have an amateur boxing record that made even professional fighters wary. But what truly sets him apart is the intellectual firepower. He studied at reputable European universities, was fluent in Russian, Serbo-Croatian, French, and German, and once held CIA and NSA clearances during the Korean War. Some fans question whether he exaggerated the scope of his intelligence duties. Could one man really do it all? Compete in high-level sports, speak multiple languages, and serve in top-secret reconnaissance? Records do show he worked as a Russian intercept interrogator, running secret flights along contested borders. Even more intriguing is the suggestion that a personal relationship ended up interfering with government clearance. The exact details remain murky, fueling rumors that Smith almost launched a full-on intelligence career, until Hollywood reeled him back in. Even if half the legends are true, his story is mind-blowing enough to overshadow most tough guy roles. And the mysteries only grow from here. The lines between rumor and reality blur even further with the next set of Hollywood legends. Physical grit isn't just about wars or intelligence operations. Some actors carried scars from unbelievably dangerous stunts, near-fatal accidents, or life-altering injuries, experiences that made them even tougher than their film roles suggested. Charles Bronson's family was so impoverished that as a young boy he often wore older siblings' hand-me-downs to the local mine. In Pennsylvania's coal region, life was harsh. Bronson started working those same mines by age 10 or 11, facing daily hazards that could kill an adult, let alone a child. During World War II, he served as a B-29 aerial gunner in the U.S. Army Air Forces. Surviving bombing runs over Japan required nerves of steel, especially given the high casualty rates among bomber crews. After the war, he tried his luck in acting. But his earlier experiences, gritty poverty, coal dust, bullet fire from enemy interceptors, never really left him. Some say those cold, unyielding eyes that made Bronson an action icon weren't acting at all. They were windows to the unforgiving life he'd known. Off-screen, he was famously reserved, and rumors swirl that he sometimes refused to fraternize with co-stars who hadn't earned their stripes in life. One particularly dramatic anecdote claims he once confronted a disrespectful younger actor by giving him a quiet stare so intimidating the newcomer apologized on the spot. Exaggeration or truth? Hard to say, but the man's reputation for no-nonsense grit persisted till the end. Douglas nearly defined the term rugged masculinity on screen, yet fans might be shocked to learn he was tossed out of the Navy in 1944, not because he was incompetent, but because he suffered a serious injury when a depth charge exploded prematurely on his ship. He recovered, but lingering effects ended his World War II service early. Back in Hollywood, he was known to do many of his own stunts, occasionally butting heads with directors who worried about his safety. Douglas's run-ins with mortality didn't stop there. At age 74, he survived a helicopter crash that killed 2 other people. Then at 79, he had a debilitating stroke that doctors believed would permanently silence him. Within months, he regained enough speech to continue public appearances. Those who worked with him often said he had the spirit of a bare-knuckle fighter, someone who refused to let adversity derail him. But adversity never gave these legends a break. Even if the cameras loved them, life sometimes pushed them to the brink in ways that defied belief. War records and tough childhoods are one thing, but you might be wondering, did these real-life bruisers ever square off in Hollywood itself? The answer is a resounding yes. Rumors swirl of on-set showdowns, behind-the-scenes feuds, or rivalries that occasionally erupted into actual violence. William Smith, that intellectual colossus who could toss around a 163-pound reverse curl of his own body weight, was inevitably going to have tensions with other macho co-stars. One of the most famous tales involves a potential run-in with Clint Eastwood. Although they staged a legendary on-screen brawl in Any Which Way You Can, fans still debate who would win if the fists were actually flying. Some on the production staff whispered that if things turned real, Smith was simply too powerful, even for Eastwood's formidable persona. Of course, Eastwood is no pushover, so who truly had the edge remains one of Hollywood's enduring what-if brawls. Sesu Hayakawa exploded into silent era fame as a dangerously handsome romantic lead at a time when anti-Asian sentiment ran deep. Jealousy simmered. Racist stereotypes threatened to typecast him. According to Hollywood gossip, more than one husky American actor stepped up to teach him a lesson out of fear he was stealing the spotlight and the hearts of starlets. They quickly learned Hayakawa wasn't just an exotic, pretty face. He'd trained in martial arts and was rumored to have put a few troublemakers in their place off-camera. Studio execs often panicked, worried such incidents would spark scandal. Yet these rumored altercations only boosted his mystique. An aristocratic gentleman with lethal skills if provoked. It's no wonder some saw the studios bending over backward to rein him in. While official records hush up these scuffles, the rumors persisted, and they feed into a bigger question. How many macho conflicts did the golden age of Hollywood bury to protect its tidy image? Behind every fearless soldier-turned-actor or tough brawler on set, there's often an unseen war raging in their own mind. PTSD wasn't widely understood during World War II or Korea, and many veterans who returned to Hollywood carried invisible scars. James Doohan became immortalized as Scotty in Star Trek, but fewer fans know he was a real-life war hero from Canada who landed on Juno Beach during D-Day. That single morning of the Normandy invasion set the tone for much of his future. While navigating a chaotic battlefield, he managed to disable enemy machine gun nests. Then tragedy struck. Friendly fire from a jittery Canadian sentry shredded him with 6 rounds. One bullet obliterated his middle finger, forever hidden on screen. Another was deflected by a cigarette case in his pocket, quite literally saving his heart from being pierced. Despite the comedic lightheartedness of Scotty, you can imagine the nightmares and the guilt that might come from losing friends and nearly being killed by your own side. Friends say he rarely talked about it, preferring to channel his experiences into crafting illusions of warp drives and futuristic problem-solving. Audie Murphy stands as a case study in how real valor can clash with Hollywood's illusions. He received every U.S. Combat Award for valor possible, plus numerous French and Belgian honors, by age 19. His Medal of Honor moment came when he single-handedly held off waves of German troops by climbing atop a burning tank destroyer and firing a .50 caliber machine gun until he ran out of ammo. When that story made headlines, a studio convinced him to star in his own biopic, To Hell and Back. It was a box office hit, but behind Murphy's calm, boyish face lay a battlefield of internal anguish. He reportedly suffered intense nightmares and severe insomnia, which he tried to cope with using sleeping pills. Rumors circulated that he occasionally displayed bursts of paranoia or hypervigilance on set, understandable given how raw his experiences had been. Over the years, certain tabloids sensationalized his struggles, painting him as unstable, but friends and family insisted he was grappling with what we now know as PTSD. In an era with minimal mental health resources, Murphy's quiet suffering was overshadowed by his cinematic persona. He died tragically in a plane crash at just 45, leaving behind a legacy that modern veterans still revere. Heavy burdens indeed. Yet for these men, forging on in the face of internal demons may have been the greatest test of all. Hollywood thrives on gossip. With so many war heroes in its ranks, you can bet there's no shortage of swirling rumors, both uplifting and scandalous. Did one star really sabotage a top-secret mission out of jealousy? Did some quietly rescue a hidden child overseas? Let's peer into the rumor mill. When asked if he'd ever stabbed someone during the war, Christopher Lee famously responded, "I don't care to speak about it." This statement only fans speculation. Could his hush-hush attitude conceal clandestine kills behind enemy lines? One rumor claims Lee was present when certain Nazi leaders attempted a last-ditch surrender to avoid capture by the Soviets. Another story suggests the SAS used him for interrogation because he spoke multiple languages and had a chilling presence that made grown men confess everything. With most documents classified, the real truth might never be fully known, but these uncertain details amplify his legend like a dark cloak. Post-war politics were complicated, especially during the Red Scare. Sterling Hayden's left-leaning sympathies and his close ties to European partisans triggered FBI scrutiny. For a time, rumor had it he might face un-American activities allegations. Did his prior spy work abroad blur lines of loyalty? Officially, no direct charges emerged, but Hayden's war record ironically did little to protect him from suspicion in the paranoia of the era. A few film insiders said this contributed to his lifelong cynicism toward Hollywood, a system that cast him aside when he was no longer convenient. In a world that loves tidy narratives, these messy, half-known accounts only deepen the intrigue around Hollywood's fighting men. Hollywood is a powerful mythmaker. When genuine soldiers became stars, they brought an authenticity to roles that simply can't be faked. Their legacy influenced not just other actors, but the entire industry's approach to portraying heroism. Sessue Hayakawa shattered stereotypes. He dared to be romantic, tough, and irresistibly charismatic in an era that tried to pigeonhole Asian men as meek or villainous. Pushing back against xenophobia, he forced studios to acknowledge that leading men come in different races and backgrounds. Some film historians argue that Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and even modern Asian heartthrobs owe a debt to the unyielding determination Sessue displayed. Despite the prejudice he faced, Sessue's powerful presence forced Hollywood to expand its definition of masculinity. Peter Julian Ortiz might be less of a household name, but behind the scenes, he was revered for bringing grit and expertise to Hollywood's depiction of war. His actual experiences in both the French Foreign Legion and the U.S. Marine Corps were so extensive that studios sought him out as a technical advisor. Rumor has it he sometimes clashed with directors who wanted dramatic flair over accuracy. But Ortiz refused to glorify war or sanitize it. He believed viewers deserved truth, even if that truth was ugly. Many of his recommended changes ended up enhancing the realism of war films, inspiring future generations of producers and actors to aim for a more authentic representation of combat. All of these actors proved that real-life experience can reshape Hollywood's storytelling. Directors faced with men who had actually heard bullets whizzing by their ears often had to adapt to a new standard of realism. You've seen glimpses of extraordinary lives, actors who stepped beyond the realm of make-believe and into genuine life-or-death struggles. So the next time you watch an old war movie or see a gritty western starring one of these names, remember, the heroism you're witnessing might be a lot closer to reality than you ever realized. And if you're wondering who among modern Hollywood could fill those boots, well, that's an open question. Before you go, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which of these stories struck you the most? Do you believe all the rumors swirling around them? Or do you think some of these legends grew over time like tall tales? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you want more hidden Hollywood histories. There's a world of untold stories out there.